Oh, and welcome to episode 858 of the official EstablishTheRun.com podcast. My name is Adam Levitan, and round one of the 2025 NFL draft went down last night. It was truly a great time to be alive, to discuss everything we saw on night one and look ahead to night two. I'm joined by the young men you know and love, Evan Silva and Anthony Amico. Evan, how was your draft night? How's it going?
Man, it's awesome. It's always like I get so intense watching it. I had a buddy over. He had never watched the draft with me before. And I mean, just every other word is a cuss word. I have I'm worried about my mock. I'm worried about all the bets. We got to get stuff right. I didn't have a good mock this year, but we did hit a lot of bets. And actually, the live mock that we did on Monday, we nailed each of the first 6 picks. And we hit some long shots. I think the betting shows wound up being great. I thought it was a super, super, super fun round. A lot of really interesting fantasy landing spots. The trade up to 2 for Travis Hunter. Right away. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe they actually did it. Super fun first round, man.
Yeah. Super fun first round. Shout out to Amico, who was absolutely on fire during prop season this year. Amico, how's it going?
It's going great, man. Finally, last year, not a great draft for me. So had to sit on that for 365 days, but we're back. I'm happy to announce we're back.
We are back. On today's live stream, we are going to hit on the biggest stories from last night. We're going to hit on how it's affected the fantasy landscape. And then at the end, we'll look at the board for some day 2 props. One exciting thing, Underdog is opening their Best Ball Mania tournament on Monday. Biggest best ball tournament in the world, $25 buy-in, $15 million prize pool. We have been grinding hard to have rankings ready. First thing Monday, our best ball product is just $49.99. Covers a full calendar year. For details, head to EstablishTheRun.com. Also, for anyone new to us here on YouTube, we hope it comes through how seriously we take this stuff. We get that this isn't for everyone. This is not a mass market show, but if you want the most hardcore content for props, best ball, fantasy, stick around, hit the subscribe button. All right. We have to start with the trade, which I honestly didn't see coming, but gained so much steam yesterday afternoon. Jaguars give up the number 5 pick, the number 36 pick, and the number 126 pick, and a 2026 round 1 pick. They get back number 104 and 200, all for the right to move up to 2 and select Colorado wide receiver. Yes, wide receiver, Travis Hunter. Evan, what did you think of the Jaguars' decision to go up and get Travis Hunter here at 2 overall?
I love it. It was costly, and I'll write about that, break down the cost of it when I do my draft grades, which usually come out on Saturday night / Sunday. But just kind of leaving the cost out of it, I love it. I think Travis Hunter is freaking awesome. I think that he was the best player in the draft, maybe by a considerable margin. I think he's just a phenomenal talent. Generation. I actually think that you can use the word generational with Travis Hunter, and I love it, man. I thought it was freaking awesome. It was ballsy. This GM is 34 years old, man. What were you guys doing when you were 34 years old? Nothing. Nothing.
Yeah. Amico, there was some 11-1 out there at the start of this process for Travis Hunter to go to. I know there were a bunch of people that were on Travis Hunter to go to the Browns, which ended up not being a hit for them. What do you think of the way the Travis Hunter 2 stuff played out?
Yeah, it was awesome to see the best player actually go where he should have gone. And I, excuse me, I definitely didn't expect the trade. Day of, there was a lot of talk about it. I think a lot of people were mentioning it on Twitter. It definitely felt like it had some legs, but to actually pull it off, wow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm texting my friends oh, this draft's crazy. And my buddy texts me back weren't the first 5 picks the same 5 picks everyone was saying? I'm yeah, but that trade was the trade was nuts.
For sure. So the quote from the Jaguars was after the pick was, "We will have a plan for Travis Hunter. he'll primarily play on offense. Again, he'll primarily play on offense while learning the defensive system and practicing on the defensive side as well during the offseason program. Now, Renner's comp for Travis Hunter as a wide receiver was Chad Johnson with elite ball skills. This offense, Evan, Trevor Lawrence, who, I know there's a lot of widely differing opinions on him. Trevor Lawrence has Brian Thomas, Travis Hunter, De'Ami Brown, tight end is Brenton Strange, running back, Travis Etienne, and Tank Bigsby. You saw last year, it can get even with Mac Jones, it got real exciting playing Brian Thomas. And we had Brian Thomas as a top 12 pick prior to this. We're working on the rankings now. Again, they'll be up Monday, the new ones. But what do you think about this offense from a fantasy perspective going forward now that they have Travis Hunter playing wide receiver?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in Liam Cohen. I think he's one of the best offensive orchestrators in the league. I'm excited about it, man. I'm excited about it. I don't think that Brian Thomas is too badly adversely affected. I think guys like Brenton Strange and De'Ami Brown, I'm not as optimistic about them. I think it'll be interesting to see what they do at running back. I mean, we still have a lot of draft picks left to be made. It would be really, really nice if they just roll with Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne. I mean, I think Bigsby could kind of eat. You remember Bigsby pretty much took the job away from Travis Etienne last year.
Yeah, and they've invested a bunch in Etienne and Bigsby, and that's why I didn't think that they were actually going to take Genty. And we talked. He was getting so mocked so hard to the Jaguars by the end, and Genty to Jaguars ended up being a huge favorite before all this trade rumors started yesterday. But yeah, I like what the Jaguars did better than staying where
They're
they were.
Going to be so explosive on the perimeter. I mean, they have the opportunity to be in one of the most explosive passing offenses in the league.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, Thomas Hunter feels like it's like already like a top 5 wide receiver duo, right? I mean, like, that's really, really good. And young and cost controlled. Like that's.
I mean, wide receivers do not get drafted in the top 5 very often. Obviously, Marvin Harrison last year, but Jamar Chase 2021, Corey Davis was a bust in 2017, Amari Cooper in 2015, Sammy Watkins 2014, but AJ Green, Calvin Johnson, Larry Fitzgerald,
possible Hall of Famer,
Andre Johnson. Larry Fitzgerald will be in the Hall of Fame when he's eligible in 2026. He's not there yet, but yes. So yeah, really good vibes. All right, let's keep it moving to Ashton Genty. So as I said, everybody had Ashton Genty going 5. He falls to 6. Raiders stay put and take him. I think this ran out the ideal way that the Raiders wanted it to. I think the Raiders wanted Ashton Genty all along. I had heard for the last week or so that if Genty was there at 6, the Raiders were staying put and taking him. That turned out to be true. Pete Carroll, Chip Kelly, they get the guy they coveted. And it was a need, I mean, they have Raheem Mostert, Sincere McCormick, Samir White in their backfield. So it's hard to think of many better landing spots for Ashton Genty. I think, Evan, what do you think about Genty as a member of the Raiders?
Yeah, I think traditionally you see a guy go to the Raiders and you're like, the freaking Raiders. But man, this guy, Ashton Genty, has a chance to get so many touches with the Raiders. I mean, the rest of their running backs are garbage. We've seen that. Chip Kelly, Pete Carroll, they're going to want to run the rock. They are going to build their offense around this dude. And I mean, we talked about Field Yates talked a lot about it. How good as a receiver Ashton Genty is, even though he wasn't used that much that way this past year. The year before, he led all Division I running backs in receiving yards. I think he actually played a bunch of wide receiver in high school. It's an awesome, super exciting landing spot. He's going to get the ball so much right away.
I mean, just on volume alone, he's going to be a really strong pick. I think back of round 1 was like my initial gut, somewhere right there with like Achane and McCaffrey and guys like that. Amico, what did you think of the Genty landing spot?
Yeah, I thought this was ideal, like you said. I mean, the Raiders are really pushing for relevancy right away. So, this is not the Raiders of old. They have Geno Smith. I would imagine they're probably going to add a receiver at some point during this draft. They have a couple of solid pieces on defense. They have a good young offensive line. Like they're trying to win like 8, 9, 10 games this year. I don't know how that'll work for them, but this is not going to be like a bottom of the league offense.
No.
So
I think they'll be productive, and like we're gonna have major fantasy implications here because Brock Bowers, Ashton Genty, and even Jacoby Myers, we'll see what they do at wide receiver, are all going to be very fantasy.
Yeah, they go back on the board at 37 too.
Yep. Okay. Panthers pick was a bit of a surprise. You get to the board at 8 overall, and everyone had them taking Jalen Walker. I mean, everybody had the Panthers taking Jalen Walker at 8 overall. They throw a bit of a curveball, I thought, and take Tet McMillan. But look, their wide receivers were Xavier Legette, a 35-year-old Adam Thielen, and Jalen Coker. So I get it from that perspective. Evan, what do you think of the Panthers' decision to not go after defense here and go ahead with Tet McMillan at wide receiver?
Well, you know, it kind of became clear to me in the lead up to the draft, maybe like the week leading up to the draft, that all that buzz about Tet McMillan falling, I think it became clear that it was a mirage. I mean, we had, you know, Peter Schrager talking about that Tet could go like 5 to the Jaguars. I think Schefter even brought that up. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, I was on Matthew Golden for a while to be the first receiver drafted and blew that. But I kind of came to grips with it as the draft was nearing. And I love the move. I mean, I always loved Tet McMillan, the player. I mean, he is big with elite ball skills. And Bryce Young was balling by the end of last season. So yeah, I think it's a pretty good landing spot for him.
Yeah, I'm excited about the Panthers offense for a bunch of reasons. I mean, Bryce Young, final 8 games of last season, averaged over 21 DraftKings points per game. He adds Tet McMillan now. Their defense, you know, which I know they made some light additions in free agency, but yeah, I mean, they were dead last in yards per play allowed last year. Yeah. Even if they improved, they're still not.
They could be a shootout team, no question.
Exactly.
They also have built their offensive line. Like their offensive line is in really good shape too.
And they get to face Atlanta, Tampa, and New Orleans 6 times, you know, every year. So I actually am kind of excited, and I was really, really down on Bryce Young, but offensive line, like Evan said, Tet McMillan, shootout type stuff, good matchups. I probably going to be higher than market on this Panthers offense for me going forward. Emecha, what'd you think of Panthers' decision to go Tet over any other wide receiver and to go Tet, period, here in the draft at 8 overall?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was fair. I mean, shout out to Josh Norris. I know that he was kind of on this the last couple of days leading up to the draft. I asked Albert Breer about the Tet steam in one of his mailbags, and he said, like, listen, like Tet was a top 10 guy going into the college season and for most of the college season. And this draft ends up being really flat. So it's just kind of like there's people who still believe that he's that guy. So he has a chance to be top 10. He has a chance to be 20, but that's kind of his range. And I mean, this is absolutely perfect for McMillan. He's going to be a huge winner in our dynasty stuff because it's like the one spot where he can really just be an alpha right out of the gate. He has no competition really for targets from, you know, established players.
Adam kind of, you know, bangs on Matthew Golden for his production, which, I mean, he's right about. And, you know, analytics have really shown over the years that you want more so than than measurable athleticism as at the wide receiver position. You want production. And Matthew Golden doesn't have that nearly as much as Tet McMillan. You do not have to worry about that with Tet McMillan. Yeah. I mean, he had 1,402 yards on 90 catches as a sophomore in 2023 and 10 touchdowns. And this past year, he had 84 catches for 1,319 yards and 8 touchdowns. So you do not have to worry about it. Yeah, he's going to come in and be their number 1 receiver right away, I think.
Yeah, I mean, production just absolutely off the charts for Tet McMillan at the college level. All right. Bears at 10 was, I honestly didn't know what they were going to do. I know a lot of people were mocking them tight end. I'm not sure I really believed it. And not only did they go tight end, but they went Colston Loveland, who at times was 6-1, 7-1. I think Evan got 5-1. They go Colston Loveland over Tyler Warren. Now, what we're going to hear, Evan, is Colston Loveland is Ben Johnson's new Sam Laporta. I would expect the Bears to be among the league leaders in 2 tight end sets. I'd be surprised at this point if they brought back Keenan Allen, you know, so they can play Komet and they can play this rookie Loveland with Roma Dunze and DJ Moore and an improved offensive line and year 2 Caleb Williams. That's pretty nice. And I get it from that perspective, but you better be sure you're right on Colston Loveland when you take a tight end 10th overall. Evan, what do you think of the Bears' decision to go Loveland?
I thought it was at least mildly surprising, although, I mean, in my final mock, I had him taking a tight end. I had him taking Tyler Warren. I think that was a little bit surprising, even though I was on that Loveland to be the first wide receiver or first tight end drafted. I still think it was surprising because Tyler Warren, such a complete player, Mackey Award winner, plug and play, 85% of the snaps right away type of guy. I'm not sure that Colston Loveland is going to be that. Somebody in our private Slack I think it was Mark Dankenbring, noted that last year, what team ran the most 12 personnel last year? Do you guys remember? I think it was the Raiders.
Yeah.
And they ran like 48%. And then the second most was 40%. So teams really do not play two tight ends as their base offense. I wouldn't put it. I mean, Brian,
I think that, Evan, this is where like the flexibility of Loveland pays off for them, because they really don't he doesn't have to be a traditional tight end to be on the field. So you can play Kmet in that Y spot and play Loveland in the slot. You can play him into the boundary. Like, that's what Ben Johnson did a lot with Sam Laporta. If you look at Laporta's splits by alignment,
that's right.
He's like 40% out wide and in the slot. So
yeah,
I'm anticipating similar usage here for Loveland. I mean, he has great age adjusted production. He's a young player. This is all systems go. Like you said, Caleb has to learn how to play out from under center. He needs to learn traditional drop back play action type stuff. But there's no excuses. This offense really should be fire next year.
Also, Ben Johnson ran a lot of multiple tight ends in Detroit. They would play Brock Wright a lot.
Yeah.
So he's got that. Yeah.
I mean, you can see, and shout out to producer Ryan for putting together these highlights for us. For those of you watching on YouTube of Colston Loveland, you can see how he's used. He's not used like you would think of a normal, typical inline tight end. He is lining up wide a lot and making plays down the field. So I get it from that perspective, but they do have massive investments in tight end right now. That Cole Kmet contract he signed, I believe it was 2023, 4-year, $50 million contract. And then you spend the 10th overall pick on another tight end here. But still, like I said, it's hard not to be excited about the Bears, man. You get the massive coaching upgrade. Shane Fraudrin is gone. Ben Johnson is in. Offensive line massively improved. Keenan, I thought, was holding the offense back. Keenan Allen, he's gone. DJ Moore in Rome, Loveland Kmet. I'm excited about the Bears offense. I don't want to get too far out over my skis on it because Caleb disappointed, I thought, a lot last year, especially in terms of pocket presence. But, I'm still excited about Bears offense for sure.
They still need a running back, and they started the draft with 4 top 72 picks, and they've got 2 picks here in the 40s.
Yeah.
So I think we will see the Bears take a running back real soon when we start tonight.
I did want to note the Cowboys passed on wide receiver at 12. So this was very widely mocked. Cowboys wide receiver at 12. Tet McMillan was not available to them. So the reports out of Dallas right now are that if Tet McMillan was there, they were going to take him at 12. But he wasn't there, so they go with Tyler Booker, the offensive lineman out of Alabama. They now have 3 first-rounders on their offensive line: Tyler Guyton, Tyler Smith, Tyler Booker. But at wide receiver behind CeeDee, I mean, they have total dust. Jalen Tolbert, Jonathan Mingo, etc. Evan, were you surprised that the Cowboys passed on wide receiver here and went with Tyler Booker?
I think that if Tet McMillan had been available at 12, they would have taken him. But obviously he went at 8. And I mean, they're building the offensive line. I mean, I get it. They've prided themselves on that over the years, and then their offensive kind of fell apart. People are getting older. They lose guys in free agency. They got to remake it. I mean, it makes sense. It's a meat and potatoes pick for the Cowboys.
Yeah, I mean, they're out there, and we're going to have a massive amount of targets projected for CeeDee Lamb as it stands right now. Just an absolutely outrageous amount of targets for CeeDee Lamb, given his target competition and the way Dallas has played. But yeah, I think it was a good pick. in Tyler Booker, but I was a little surprised that it seemed like they didn't even think harder about wide receiver.
By the way, shout out to Underhill. He was all over best offensive tackle available to the Saints. He was kind of on Tyler Warren for a minute, and then he changed within the last week, and they wound up taking the best tackle available in Kelvin Banks. I also think that if Kelvin Banks had made it to 10, the Bears might have taken him.
Yeah. I just want to say real quick on the Dallas thing. I think that as we got closer to draft day, it became apparent that the offensive line group was going to go and it was going to run out. I mean, you saw Houston, who like desperately needed an offensive lineman. Donovan Jackson goes right before them and they're like, forget it, we're out. So, I think that this was kind of strategic by Dallas, where it's like, okay, there's one guy that we think could be an alpha. He's not there. Let's just get the offensive lineman because we can't get him now. Yeah. And this draft is super, super deep at receiver. There's probably going to be like 10 or 12 guys that go like today and early tomorrow. Yeah. So, it's kind of.
How many O linemen went? Like 9? At least 8.
Yeah. I mean, offensive line always tends to rise, and like there was, to Evan's point, like I got 7-1 on Saints to pick an offensive lineman first. And that was just like a couple weeks ago, and like, yeah, the offensive lineman stuff it definitely tends to rise a ton.
I really like what the Vikings are doing on their offensive line, by the way. And obviously we'll have Thorne on at some point and we'll be able to talk about it. They have completely rebuilt their interior offensive line. They signed Will Fries, they signed Ryan Kelly, and then they draft Donovan Jackson out of Ohio State. So they have completely rebuilt their interior for J.J. McCarthy, and they're good at tackle with Christian Darrisaw and Brian O'Neill. I mean, their offensive line all of a sudden looks pretty damn good.
Yep.
All right. That. Nice, Anthony. Good work.
Yes. Shout out to everybody who did well in the prop streets. Let's go to this Tyler Warren pick here. So Tyler Warren goes 14 to the Colts. I think this is what the Colts wanted. They're going to say this is their dream. They always wanted Tyler Warren to fall to 14. I always thought the Colts had bigger issues than the tight end spot. That said, it was a massive need. The landing spot, though, Evan, for Tyler Warren doesn't strike me as great, right? Quarterback situation, major question marks. Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones. They're going to be run heavy with Jonathan Taylor. The target competition is actually kind of legit, I think. Josh Downs, Pittman. I still think A.D. Mitchell can play. So, Evan, what do you think of Tyler Warren to the Colts?
Oh, I thought it was a great pick for them. I mean, they have been using the last couple of years like a 4-man weave at tight end. They just didn't have a guy that they wanted to play full time. Obviously, Tyler Warren is that guy. Great pick for the team from a fantasy standpoint. This is going to sound gross, but I think that you want almost want Daniel Jones to win the starting job for the sake of Tyler Warren's production.
Yeah, well,
you
that
would
is
prefer
gross.
Daniel Jones because they'll throw the ball more than if they start Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd take Loveland over Warren, and that pains me to say as a shout out Penn State guy, of course. But for redraft right now, I think I'd take Loveland over Warren. Emecha, what'd you think of the Tyler Warren landing spot here?
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with what you guys said. Great for the Colts, terrible for Warren. I mean, he's probably not even going to get to do like the fun Wildcat stuff here because they have 2 running quarterbacks. It kind of sucks for him, but it's great for Indianapolis. I mean, they have a ton of weapons, like you said.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go to this Bucks pick. This might have been the most surprising pick to fantasy people, but a lot of the draft insiders, and there was some huge odds out there on Bucks to take wide receiver. I mean, real long on Bucks to take Tet, on Bucks to take Ebuka, on Bucks to take Gold. I mean, there was tons of stuff out there. I took a little bit of it. I didn't end up hitting because I had them with Tet mostly, but it ended up being right. And it didn't make a lot of sense to a lot of people. Now, Mike Evans is about to be 32. Chris Godwin is 29, coming off of an ankle injury. Some people don't love Jalen McMillians. I like him. But it was regardless, didn't feel like a position of need for the Bucks. But you could make arguments that it was. Evan, how surprised were you by the Ebuka pick to the Bucks here at 19 overall?
Well, I understand it in that, Jason Light has really done a good job as the Bucks GM. He's like kind of getting to the point where he's been there a long time too. And he's done well in the draft. He's done well in free agency. And I get it from the standpoint that they are confident that Emecha Ebuka is going to be a quality player in the NFL. And they got a good player, period. But yeah, from a needs standpoint, this was not a glaring need. He's no replacement for Mike Evans. Emecha Ebuka is like a slot receiver.
Right.
And, you could say, well, Chris Godwin plays in the slot too, and Jalen McMillan plays in the slot too.
Yeah.
So I understand it, but, I don't. It wasn't. I guess maybe they didn't maximize it. I don't know, but they got a good player, so it's kind of hard to quibble with. Totally.
Yeah. Well, look, my biggest concern isn't that Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are going to be there forever, because they won't. And I like taking wide receivers and good wide receivers and having them on cost control for 5 years. I get all that. My bigger issue is that I didn't think Chris Godwin really played well outside, right? And I don't know what Amico thinks, but from everything I've read and seen, Ebuka doesn't project to play that well outside either. So assuming Chris Godwin's ankle is right for week 1, they just signed Chris Godwin to 3-year contract in free agency. They could have just let him walk. Stone cold free agency, they bring Godwin back on a 3-year deal, over $40 million guaranteed. Now it strikes me they have 2 guys that play the same position. Or maybe I'm missing this, Amico, and you think Ebuka can play some outside for them. But Amico, how do you think Ebuka fits with the Bucs?
Yeah, this feels like more of a contingency play for them, just to make sure that they don't have nobody at some point at receiver. I don't really see this being something that's going to pay off. I wouldn't be drafting him in best ball. I think he's going to go down in our dynasty stuff. He's pretty severely blocked from production. I think he can play a little bit outside. I don't think he's stone dead there. Maybe they'll do the Godwin thing again out there. I don't really get it. He is A+ character, A+ football work ethic. He's going to block in the run game, all that stuff. But you don't get fantasy points for those things. It's just not a good spot for fantasy.
Yeah.
Would they try to trade Chris Godwin?
They literally just signed him. Literally.
They can't. They'll pay a ton of money dead to do that.
He was awesome before he got hurt. Remember how awesome he was last year before he got hurt? He was balling.
He was going nuts. And also Jalen McMillan, Amico, from a Dynasty perspective, has to be kind of crushed as well here, right? And I thought he played pretty well down the stretch, especially in games after they didn't have Godwin. So yeah, it's a mess. It's not ideal. But good for Baker, man.
Hell yeah.
Baker's going to be tough to project as a strict pocket passer. I guess he did run the ball more last year, but yeah, he has some incredible weaponry for Baker Mayfield. All right. Let's go to what the Chargers did. So Chargers are on the clock here at 22. They go Omarian Hampton, running back out of North Carolina. Now, they did sign Najee Harris in free agency. That was only, though, a 1-year, $5.2 million guaranteed contract. I think that what they'd signed Najee Harris for should not have stopped them from taking Omarian Hampton if they loved Omarian Hampton, which it seems like they did. Evan, what did you think of Chargers' decision to go running back here in round 1?
Yeah, there was a lot of buzz building on that. And Daniel Jeremiah, who is literally the color analyst for the Chargers, had Travion Henderson at 22 to the Chargers. So it was not surprising that they went with a running back. It was a little bit surprising that Omarian Hampton was there because, I could have seen him going 20 to the Broncos or 21 to the Steelers. He gets to 22. And, I don't know, it'll be an interesting debate. We clearly know that Najee Harris is a pedestrian talent, but he never gets hurt. He doesn't put the ball on the ground. He can play in the passing game. Coaching staffs can trust him. He can pass protect. And, he's going to get snaps for the Chargers. It's just, can Omarian Hampton ice Najee Harris, right away? That'll be really interesting to see. I think that the easy answer is yes. And I think the tougher, maybe more accurate answer is, I don't know, it might take a little bit. Najee Harris is not a bum.
Yeah. You can see from the highlights we're showing here, Omarian Hampton is so much more explosive than Najee Harris. Not even a question. But to Evan's point, coaches love Najee Harris for all the reasons that Evan said. Is just a super reliable guy. In year 1, maybe it's not the best for Omarian Hampton, but I still think it's fine. Long term, though, I really do like this spot for Omarian Hampton. I think if they can fix the interior offensive line, they could have a really good offensive line You saw J.K. Dobbins absolutely shredding when he was healthy last year for the Chargers in the run game as well. Emecha, what do you think about this battle between Hampton and Najee, and anything else on the Hampton landing spot?
Yeah, it'll be good. I mean, I think they're talking about kicking Zion Johnson into center, which should help their offensive line a little bit. And I mean, Hampton is just way better, like you guys have said. So the investment here in Najee is not super big. I think that this probably projects to be one of those like classic spots in fantasy where, early on we're going to be really frustrated, but then when it becomes nut crunch time late in the season, like Hampton's going to be getting the ball.
Yeah.
So that, it's still going to be, I think, a decent sized win there for fantasy.
And also, there's going to be just a lot of work to go around. I mean, Greg Roman, Jim Harbaugh, these dudes run the rock. They play multiple backs. There's going to be a lot of stuff to go around. But both guys are going to be involved.
Yeah. Colby had the same thought that I did here. Colby said Chargers should have gone Matthew Golden, IMO. I thought the Chargers could have gone wide receiver here for sure. I think a more valuable position than running back. They have Ladd McConkey. I don't necessarily believe in Quentin Johnston, but they have Quentin Johnston. They don't have a lot else behind him. Evan, were you surprised at all that Chargers passed on Matthew Golden, wide receiver here?
No, because, again, this is Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman.
Yeah.
So not surprised.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go to Matthew Golden. So Packers, obviously, they have wide receiver issues. Even Josh Jacobs asked for it after the season. He was like, we need more wide receiver help. We need an alpha, whatever. Christian Watson's coming off of the ACL tear. Jaden Reed appeared to take a step back as a sophomore. Romeo Dobbs is, meh. Dontavian Wicks really struggled on his chances last year. So for the first time in 23 years, Packers take a wide receiver in round 1 in Matthew Golden. Evan, what do you think of Packers pick here?
I think that people are going to be like, oh man, this is an awesome landing spot. And I'm a little bit skeptical right now. They will play a rotation. The Packers will, and they'll spread the ball around. And I'm not sure that Matthew Golden profiles as a true number 1.
Yeah.
So I'm a little bit skeptical.
Yeah. I'm skeptical of guys, and maybe I've just been burned by too many of these guys in Miko, but I'm skeptical of guys who I perceive to have gone up people's draft boards simply because they ran a 4.29. And this 4.29 is disputed, but I don't want to be like, oh my God, yes, this is an awesome player because he ran a 4.29. We've seen that not work out so many times. Then you look at the production. Matthew Golden's production is not that great. He only caught 58 balls in 16 games last season for Texas. So you've studied Matthew Golden way more than me. Emecha, what do you think about him and the landing spot here?
Yeah, I'm a lot more optimistic than you guys. I mean, when I look at Golden's college career, like he produced as a true freshman playing alongside Tank Dell. Second season, he dealt with some injuries that I think really set him back. And then last year, he was the go-to guy down the stretch for a playoff caliber Texas team with a lot of NFL talent on it. So, he was someone that was already in like the teens for Daniel Jeremiah prior to the combine. So I have a feeling that this guy's actually genuinely talented. And to the point of Green Bay, like rotating receivers and all that stuff. I mean, I think part of that is a result of them just not having anybody, like not having a true guy. So, I mean, Golden, there's definitely a chance that he is just an ancillary piece. Like he's just, running 3 or 4 different kinds of routes, and he's part of the offense and he makes them better and he doesn't score fantasy points. But there's also a chance that like he becomes the established go-to weapon in an offense that hasn't had one in years.
Yeah. The upside is definitely there for this really to come together nicely.
Yeah. No, I think it's interesting, and he's going to be a super interesting player to rank as well. Draft capital is certainly in his favor. I know on initial, we started looking at him in the 70s or the 80s for a redraft here this year, but we're continuing to work on that. Look for our rankings on Monday. All right. Let's go to what the Giants did, man. I love what the Giants did. And shout out to this guy. I retweeted or sent the video of this drunk guy in the parking lot who nailed it. And I mean, and if I'm a Giants fan, I'm actually excited for the first time in a long time. I think, and I'm obviously biased by the Penn State stuff, but I think Abdul Carter cannot miss as an awesome pass rusher. They get him at 3 overall. Would not shock me if he ends up being the best player in this draft. And then they have 2 round 3 picks. They didn't give up their good round 3 pick. They gave up their worst round 3 pick, plus their round 2 to get up to 25 overall. We know they have quarterback issues. They take Jackson Dart. And even if you don't think Jackson Dart is ready, they have Russ Wilson and Jameis Winston there as well. So I don't do draft grades, but I thought the Giants did an awesome job last night. Evan, what do you think of what the Giants did?
It's funny because I completely disagree with you.
Okay.
Totally opposite, totally at the opposite end of the spectrum. Look at Amico, the freaking resident Giants fan, the laundry bro. No, I hated this. I hated this because the team, the regime that just traded up for Jackson Dart is not going to be there after this season. So you're already starting on your second offense in which Jackson Dart is going to be with a regime that didn't draft him. No, I hated what the Giants did.
Well, did you like them staying put and taking Abdul Carter? Let's start there.
Yeah, I mean, but that was a lock.
Okay. So did you prefer a different quarterback over Dart?
No.
So you just thought that they should have just stayed where they were and not addressed the quarterback?
Yeah, just have Jameis Winston peppering Malik Neighbors with targets, and then everybody gets fired. I mean, everybody's getting fired anyways. They should have already been fired.
They could have a really good I don't know what Amico thinks. They could have really good defense. I mean, Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence.
They got some dudes.
Abdul Carter, Kayvon Thibodeau. Like, they could actually be good on defense. Maybe they won't get fired. Amico, Giants fan, what do you think of what the Giants did last night?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I thought that I would have been okay with everyone being fired at the end of the year, just for the sake of like not making bad decisions, that impact the future. But once you keep those guys, like, we got to give Dave Balls a chance to cook here. They finally have NFL caliber quarterback play. Dart's probably not going to play at all this year. I mean, that's got to be your plan going into this. Is like this dude does not play at all. Like, we're trying to get wins. This guy's just going to sit and learn NFL offense, NFL football, and then he's the guy in 26. But I think that this is totally, totally fine. They did not pay a premium cost. They secured the blue chip player with their first pick. They made a ton of changes to the secondary in free agency. So they've overall, I think, really upgraded the defense. So yeah, I mean, I guess I'm a fan. I guess I'm a laundry bro, but I'm feeling optimistic here.
Well, Ronan said that he expects Russ Wilson to still start. I'm curious, Evan, how many games you think Dart will start this year, if any, because it's kind of crowded. I mean, Russ, Jameis Winston, and Dart here. Do you think Dart gets starts this year? I guess is a good question.
I saw Dankenbring, who's good at this kind of stuff, super smart guy. He was saying that he thinks that we should project Jackson Dart for 12 starts this year.
I would have it lower than that.
I would too. I mean, don't you think they should trade Russell Wilson to the Steelers?
The Steelers even want him back?
Yeah, I think the Steelers would say no.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They're getting Rodgers, dude. They're getting Rodgers. They don't need Russ. They're getting Rodgers.
All right. We didn't mention Cam Ward to the Titans just because everybody's known that for so long. But yeah, any initial thoughts, Evan, on Cam Ward from a fantasy perspective? Weaponry is not great. Calvin Ridley, Tyler Lockett, Chiga Okonkwo. We've got comps to Steve McNair for Cam Ward. Any fantasy thoughts on Cam Ward to the Titans, Evan?
I think he's going to be okay. I don't have any like super strong feelings about Cam Ward's fantasy outlook. Yeah. I think, if he runs, like you want him to run, we'll see how much they have him run. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to have a great rank. I don't think he'll really be a QB1.
He'll be somewhere in like the QB 20s.
Yeah, Amico, what do you think about Cam Ward's landing spot from a dynasty perspective here?
I mean, it kind of comes down to what you think of Brian Callahan, because I mean, Ward is definitely a super talented guy, but he needs to shed the Will Levis from his game, and we already saw that not happen with Will Levis under the same coaching staff. So I'm slightly pessimistic. I mean, they don't really have any weapons. I'd like to see them do that here on day 2, add a couple weapons, maybe Kyle Williams, his former college teammate. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I think it really just comes down to the coaching. They have worked on the offensive line, so it's getting better. But this is just a really bad football team, a really bad roster. Like, generally speaking, that's not a good spot for fantasy.
For sure. Okay. Couple like veteran thoughts that I had last night. Jaylen Warren. So the Steelers were on the clock. They could have taken Omarian Hampton. They could have taken Travion Henderson. Steelers passed, which, I thought was a great sign because they don't have, for Jaylen Warren, because they do not have another pick until round 3, 83 overall. They go with Derek Harmon, defensive tackle. So they're going to add a running back. I get that, but I still thought it was a pretty good vote of confidence here for Jaylen Warren.
You want this to happen so bad, man. You talk about this on every show. Levitt.
I know. I can't stop. My Jaylen Warren bags are full.
Yeah, and I would not, to borrow a Levitan phrase, I would not want to get out ahead of my skis about any running backs right now because there's about to be 20 of them drafted like tonight.
Yeah. But the Steelers don't pick until 83 overall, so there could be a ton of them gone before they begins back to the Steelers, but we'll see.
Man, you want this
smells like bad. Caleb Johnson.
Have him on all your dynasty teams or something?
I don't know. Yeah, okay, it's enough. Also, I expect Dallas to take a running back, possibly as early as their second round pick here, but for now, Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders, somewhat safe. Broncos, as Evan mentioned, passed on running back at 20 overall, went with Jahdae Barron. So McLaughlin and Estime are going to get competition for sure, but it won't be one of the elite guys. One thing that we talked about on the mock, Evan, was Chiefs taking a tackle. And no one's talking about this, but I think it's kind of I kind of want to bet back in on Mahomes. And I was out on Mahomes last year. My first gut is to be back in on Mahomes, offensive line improvements, Rashee Rice healthy, Xavier Worthy, breakout, end of his rookie year, and you get Hollywood Brown back as well. So I thought the pick was good, at least for Mahomes. Evan, any thoughts on what the Chiefs did here? Josh Simmons, tackle out of Ohio State at 32 overall.
Love it. I did not get many player to team matches right. I think I maybe 5, and this was one of them. So yeah, I was on this. I think it's a great pick. A lot of people thought that Josh Simmons, if he had stayed healthy, he ruptured his patellar tendon, which that injury sucks, but offensive linemen can come back from those. If he had not ruptured his patellar tendon, he might have been the best tackle prospect in the draft. So, and he doesn't need to play immediately. They can take it easy on him. I think it was a great pick by the Chiefs.
Okay. One other sneaky winner. I thought everybody had Travis Hunter going to the Browns. They end up with Mason Graham here. And so I thought it was a win for Judy, a win for Tillman, a win for Njoku, just that they don't get this target competition from Travis Hunter. And, Flacco, if he ends up being the quarterback for the Browns, can at least play. We'll get to the Shador Sanders thing here in a second as the Browns are on the clock at 33 overall. Amico, before we move on to round 2 props, any final thoughts you want to get off your chest about round 1 here?
No, I mean, I think I was a little upset that we didn't see Travion Henderson go. I think he's going to go pretty early on day 2. If he goes to, Houston or the Chicago, Denver, one of those teams, I think we're still wheels up. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Amico, when can the people expect the dynasty update in the rankings for anyone who has draft kit stemming from the draft here?
Probably Sunday. I mean, I want to see all the picks before we make updates to the rankings, and that would be the deal.
Okay. All right. Let's get to the moment everyone has been waiting for, which is draft props. Now, I want to be very clear that the biggest edge in draft props is not in this round 2 stuff. There's far fewer markets. They're up for far less amount of time. Some of the best stuff that I got in the draft props was like a month ago or 6 weeks ago. And so this stuff that's only up for a day, it just kind of is what it is. It's more for fun to me than big edges, I would say. What I will say is that FanDuel has a better menu than DraftKings right now. So we're showing the FanDuel menu here. As you can see, the first market is number 33 overall pick. Who will be the first pick of the second round? Browns are on the clock right now. Favorite, plus 130, Shador Sanders. Travion Henderson is plus 190. Luther Burden plus 850. That one would surprise me a little bit. You also get Milroe in the mix here. Will Johnson, who we talked about a bunch, and his injury situation, and then a bunch of long shots here. Amico, any initial thoughts on this odds to go 33 overall market? I think you're on mute, Amico.
I think that there's definitely a chance that they take Shedeur Sanders, but I think it's way too heavily priced in this market. I mean, Cleveland could definitely trade this pick. They've already kind of indicated that they're looking to stockpile picks for next year. They could say, screw it, like, we're good at quarterback for now. We're just going to try to build up the rest of the roster. There's a lot of really good players. So, I mean, for me, like, this is going to sound so square, but like I literally just scroll all the way to the bottom and I look for the players that have, decently high draft rankings. Like, I think I could see Landon Jackson,
Amos.
I could see Schweissinger. All those guys are like 60 to 1 plus. Like, I would just rather take those darts than do anything that I feel is, certain. Like, oh, I'm so confident in this.
Yeah, I had a play on Carson Schweissinger to go in the first round. That was like 5 to 1 or something. He's 75 to 1 to be the first pick here. I guess the concern, Evan, is that there's quarterback needy teams, and if they have a reasonable grade on Shedeur Sanders or Milroe or Tyler Shuck here's at 2,400, that it's shouldn't be that expensive to get up there and take a quarterback if you want him. Evan, any thoughts on what the Browns do with their pick here at 33 overall?
I do not. I don't have. It's really, really tough. I mean, at some point today, we're doing this pretty early. At some point today, it will become apparent who is the favorite to be drafted 33rd overall by the Browns, or they could trade the pick. But right now, I don't have a good feel.
Yeah,
at all. Also, I want to talk a little bit about Shedeur Sanders because I did not have him in either of my mock drafts, and I got a ton of heat from people. One guy said, "Oh, it looks like Evan's trying to get attention by not putting Shedeur Sanders in the first round of his mock draft," which, by the way, if I wanted to get attention, then what I would have done is like put a picture of Shedeur Sanders on the front of the mock draft and have, write like a, some sort of a synopsis like Shedeur Sanders doesn't go in the first round, except all I did was I just put him in like the just missed portion at the end. And then in the final mock draft, I just didn't even have his name on it, but I was accused of trying to generate attention by not having Shedeur, even though I brought no attention to it. And by the way, I wanted to say thank you to that guy who said that for giving me attention by reading my mock draft and tweeting about
it. Amico, do you think this Shedeur Sanders free fall? And I'm of the belief that he might free fall even further here. There's no way I would bet plus 130 here. Amico, do you think this is more due to the on-field tape, or do you think this Shedeur Sanders free fall is more due to all the bad interview, diva stuff that we've heard about Shedeur Sanders lately?
I mean, he's just not that good. Like, he holds on to the ball way too long. He takes too many sacks. He doesn't have good arm talent.
He's not a runner.
Yeah, like, there's just nothing here. Like, he's a good processor. Like, so best case scenario, he's like discount Tua.
Yeah.
That's not like, what's that winning you? Like, and if there's some of this other stuff ends up being true where like he's not a great interview, or he's not great with his teammates, or he's not, like, whatever it is, whatever situation people are talking about regarding Shedeur, like, that's not going to help you. Like, that's not going to help you get in the room at the end of the day. So I just think he's probably not that good. And once we get into day 2, as Evan said, like, these quarterbacks, they can just fall into the 3rd round. Like, I think people have pointed out, like, there's not a lot of round 2 quarterbacks historically. So
we did a bunch of shows about this. We had Mike Renner on. We had all kinds of analysts on. We had Field Yates. We had the 2 shows with Amico. And like, it was like we had it established that this guy isn't a first round talent.
Yeah.
So I don't know. People are out here acting surprised they didn't go in the first round. Like, none of us are surprised they didn't go in the first round, right?
No, and I mean, that was like, a big edge in the props markets too. Was Will Johnson fade, Shedeur fade were 2 of the biggest edges that you could find. Just some more ideas at 33 overall. I don't know what you think of these, Amico. You mentioned Scourton. He got some first round buzz. Ezeriku got first round buzz as well. Amos here, and people are betting this stuff as we speak. It's moving Revel, I think, had a little bit of first round.
I like Revel a decent bit. I mean, if you're buying, especially that Cleveland is like thinking long term, like buying the injured guy who is super talented, that feels like a Browns move.
Yeah, Jared Wilson had a little bit of first round buzz as well. I mentioned Schweisinger. That one already moved because we're talking about it here. But yeah, okay. FanDuel also has up a bunch of these team match ones. Now, as we said, Browns are minus 135 to draft Shedeur, Raiders plus 115, Saints plus 750. Obviously, they've taken the Giants way down off the board here after they got their quarterback. Amico, any thoughts on this market? Which team will end up actually drafting Shedeur Sanders?
Yeah, I mean, I think the deeper you get into the draft, the more variance you have in the landing spot. So I'd be looking more at like, maybe the Rams, maybe Seattle, a team that could be interested in taking a quarterback sometime later in the draft. I mean, he could fall far enough, I guess, where he's like a clear backup to an established starter. I don't know if I'm quite there yet, but I think Seattle and Miami would probably be my favorite bets right now, 19-1 and 38-1. Those are teams that I think realistically could take a quarterback.
Yeah, Miami is an interesting one because obviously all the Tua concussion stuff, and he just simply has not played that great. Evan, any thoughts on that one, Shedeur to Miami, or any other possible landing spots you can think of for Shedeur?
I think I got nothing. I got nothing.
Let's go to
maybe the Rams. When are they up next?
Yeah, the Rams are 14-1. That'll be an interesting spot.
And they just got some more capital because of their trade out or their trade down.
They did, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was actually a big surprise that the Falcons went. I don't know. I don't know about Terry Fontenot, man.
Oh, that was like
guy's a gambler.
He got killed for that trade, and I'm like, well, let's let it play out. That was just bad process. Like what they did was just bad process.
Yeah. Everything is going to be fine at the end of the day, everything's going to be fine if Michael Penix is a baller.
Yeah.
But these moves that he has been making, I'm going to kill him in the draft grades.
Okay. Team to draft Jalen Milroe. This is one that I'm excited about just because this guy looks like a total freak on tape as a runner, does Jalen Milroe. So I'm really interested to see where he lands from a dynasty perspective, from a fantasy perspective. In this props market, Browns are the favorite, Saints, Raiders, Steelers, Jets, Rams, also at relatively short odds. Amico, any takes on team match for Jalen Milroe here?
Yeah, I mean, again, like I'm just not really sure how far he's going to fall. Like, I feel like the Jets make sense from a systemic situation. Like if they buy whatever they're trying to do with Fields, like here's another guy that they can do similar things with. If you scroll down, like obviously the odds get jacked up pretty quickly. So, I mean, I don't know. Like, is he going to fall enough to be a backup? Because if that happens, then Ravens 75-1, Eagles 75-1, like that could be in range.
Yeah, and the Eagles will not hesitate just because they have Jalen Hurts to spend a later, third round pick or something on Jalen Milroe if he's still there. But I do think, if I was a quarterback needy team, I would take a shot on the upside of Milroe and just see how it plays out, and like Eagles got killed for taking a shot on Hurts in round 2, and look how that worked out for them.
Yeah, that's like one of the greatest draft picks of all time.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that's the likeliest outcome, and normally second round quarterbacks are not great bets, but it's at least possible.
Also, Jalen Milroe, I understand that people have a lot of skepticism about him as a passer. They did with Jalen Hurts too, by the way.
Yep.
And I understand that skepticism, but like a smart offensive coordinator can design an offense around that. I mean, you can work with a guy that's big and has that kind of elite mobility. Even if he's as bad as Malik Willis, like Malik Willis is terrible, right?
Yeah.
But the Packers won a couple games with him at quarterback last year.
Yep. This is a hard one, Amico. Team to draft Cam Scatterbo. So many teams need running back. I think Scatterbo probably going to end up going in the 3rd round. I could see him maybe slipping to the 4th. I don't know what you think about where he's going to go, Amico, but any thoughts on this team to draft Scatterbo market?
Yeah, I mean, I think 3rd, 4th, this is like, I'm not taking anything under 10-1 for this kind of a market. Like there's just way too much uncertainty. I can see the Commanders at 13-1. They're in the market for a running back. Obviously Chicago, 20-1. The Bengals 20-1. Like there's some decent odds here for teams that I think we could see drafting a running back.
Yeah, Saints 25-1. I think could use running back play as well. Evan, any thoughts on the Scatterboo market? This is one that's just like literally throwing darts, I think.
Yeah, it's throwing darts, man.
Okay.
I was kind of hoping that he would go to the Chargers. Obviously, they're not going to do that because of Omarian Hampton, but that would have been fun to see him in the Jim Harbaugh offense.
Who will go first, Milroe or Tyler Shuck? Milroe is minus 158 in this market. Shuck is plus 115. Didn't really hear any first-round buzz on Tyler Shuck whatsoever in the days leading up to the draft. And Miko, any thoughts on who goes first here, Milroe or Shuck?
Well, I think Underhill has noted that the Saints have some interest in Shuck, and they pick at pick 40. So I would lean that way with the plus odds, just because I don't like see a Milroe team like immediately coming here with like the board being pretty good, and we know Mickey does not care about your consensus big board. So I feel like plus odds on Shuck is pretty good.
Yeah.
The scary part is that you got the Browns, who have been connected to Milroe, set to draft at 33 and 36.
Yeah. I guess the question is, like, are they going to take a quarterback at all? Like, I think like the super analytics guy thing would be to take a quarterback and let him play and just see what the deal is. But kind of like the middle IQ play is like, we're just going to play Flacco and wait for quarterback next year. So it kind of depends what side of the aisle they're on there.
Yep. Who will be drafted first, Travion Henderson or Quinshon Judkins? Massive favorite here on Travion Henderson. I just wanted to note this one because somebody in chat said that there's a lot of steam on Travion Henderson to go 33 on Bovada, or I believe. So yeah, I mean, almost certainly Travion Henderson is going to go before Judkins here, right, Amico?
Yeah, this is just a clear no bet. I think that they're tiered a little different.
Yeah, I'm just curious what Travion is to go 33 here. Was he listed? Oh yeah, plus 190. So very short for Travion Henderson to go 33 overall. Also, who we drafted first, Scatterboo or Renner's boy, Dylan Sampson? You know, I know Dylan Sampson's testing wasn't great. It seemed like the tape bros loved him before that, though. Amico, minus 154 on Sampson here. Any thoughts on this one, Sampson versus Scatterboo?
I actually really like Sampson here. I mean, some of the stuff on Scatterboo, like I'm sure that there's a couple teams that love him, but for the most part, what you've heard is that the teams are not as high on him probably as some of the people in the media, just because he just doesn't have the juice, doesn't have the hashtag juice. So I would lean Sampson.
Yeah, me too. Evan, any thoughts on Scatterboo versus Sampson here?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Sorry, I feel like I'm just not delivering at all. But
it's
really hard.
Like
I mean, you know, these bets are really hard.
For sure. Rams first drafted player, Amico, any thoughts on this one? This is the only one that is up on FanDuel.
Yeah, front of the show, Ryan Noonan at 4 for 4 was trying to preach to me about linebacker this morning. So I think that's probably a decent call. There's some good linebackers here at the top of the board, and they have a couple picks. I think it's 12-1 or 10-1 on FanDuel.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to bring up two quick DraftKings markets here real quick, if I can tech lord over to DraftKings. They have matchups up, and I think the matchups ones are the ones I prefer this late in the draft. On DraftKings, it is Travion versus Nick Scourton, which two guys who had some first-round buzz here. Amico, Travion Henderson is minus 155. Sounds like, though, he's way more likely to go 33 overall than Scourton right now. But what do you think about this one, Travion Henderson or Scourton to go first?
It seems priced pretty appropriately. I know that that's not really like a fun answer, but, like you said, both of these guys are like fringe round one guys. So even if we think Henderson maybe has a better chance to go with these first couple picks, it's probably pretty balanced.
Yeah. And then the Luther Burden, I've had a hard time getting a handle on what the NFL thinks about Luther Burden. This matchup is Luther Burden versus Trey Amos. My first instinct, Amico, was I thought Trey Amos could have gone in round 1. And I don't know what the NFL thinks at all about Luther Burden. So I'm kind of tempted by Trey Amos here at plus 130. Any thoughts on this one, Burden versus Amos to go first?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think Amos is a great value. I mean, this matchup was up heading into round 1, and Amos was a massive favorite. Now, obviously, we had a bunch of picks come and Amos didn't go in the first round. So you have to adjust a little bit for that. But I think this has gone way too far to the Burden side. I would definitely still take Amos here.
Oh, right. Yeah, Evan, have you heard anything on Luther Burden? Because it seems like he's like gets a lot of buzz and people love the athleticism, former like literal #1 high school recruit. But it seems like the NFL's kind of cooled on him. Any thoughts for you on Burden here?
Yeah, I don't know. There's like some off-field stuff that I don't really know, any specifics of it, but there's some off-field thing going on.
Yeah.
Lance Zierlein made a great case for him on the Move the Sticks podcast recently with Bucky Brooks. Lance Zierlein has Luther Burden as his favorite receiver in the entire draft. But like if you watch him in 2023, he's got a bunch of downfield targets and he just gets behind the defense and he's super, super explosive. And then those like vanish this past year. So I think that people are, teams might struggle to evaluate his tape.
Yeah.
And this weird off-field stuff that I don't know anything about.
He posted on Instagram last night, right after the draft, that he was working out on the field at like midnight. So I mean, hey, he's going for it.
The other thing about Burden versus Amos Amico is there's a lot of other wide receivers that I like that even if team want wide receiver, there's a lot of options. You don't have to take Luther Burden. I know we both like Kyle Williams, but there's a lot of other wide receivers there. Like I could see 3 or 4 wide receivers that are in the mix along with Burden if you want one here. So yeah, I like that Amos one for sure there at plus 130. All right. This was a fun recap of week 1. A little bit of a look ahead of night 1, a little bit of a look ahead here to night 2. Everyone enjoy the draft. Appreciate you hanging out here for this live stream. Once again, if you're not subscribed to our YouTube, go ahead and do that now. We will be here all summer with videos on fantasy, football, interviews, everything else for the most serious and most hardcore fantasy players and prop bettors. For Evan, for Miko, producer Ryan, I'm Adam. Good luck, everybody.